With the launch of the Switch 2 fast approaching and the birth of a new console generation, you know what that means, I know what that means, Nintendo knows what that means, you know it. It's time for the good old fun speculation period before the next Smash Bros. Game's announced. I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's already begun, technically speaking. If you watch a lot of reactions to the Nintendo Direct for the Switch 2, you will see a lot of people ask where Smash is. I'll be honest, I was a smart boy and I said no Smash in the Direct, and I was obviously right because they're not announcing Smash. I'm telling you right now, Smash is not even going to be a game announced until next year. If I was to put money, I would say March of next year is when we get it. Maybe even earlier, depending on when they do the first quarter Direct. But anyway, we're gonna begin the speculation, and you know what? What better way to do it right before the launch of the Switch numero 2. And today we're going to be doing just that. We're talking about 3 groups of characters, with the most likely characters to be in, characters likely to be in, and characters I don't think will be in the game. And to that, I'll just say right quickly, this will contain spoilers, obviously, for most of the games talked about here today, but most specifically, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Metroid Dread, technically speaking, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, in a way, we can talk about it, Mario RPG, and Undertale. Although I don't think I do too much of spoilery talk about those games, I still feels correct mundo to say it, just in case. I also don't think I brought up Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom of the Legend of Zelda, but still, yeah. So, let's get right on to it, shall we? Okay, then let's first begin with the characters that are most definitely going to be in, or have the highest probability of being in. Well, actually, of this group of, well, technically speaking, 3, that could be technically speaking considered 4, who itself could technically then be considered to be 6. But anyway, of characters, would be the ones I'll be like, oh yeah, no, 100%. These are most definitely going to be in, especially if the game is already being worked on. So yeah, out of this group, obviously, the characters that are like, oh well, the game's going to have like 10, let's say 10 characters. These are like the characters I would be like, writing it down, they're just immediately in, 100% in, not even going to question or debate it, they're in my humblest of opinions. So let's begin with the most obvious pairing, I should say. Yeah, pairing, I was going to say character, but technically speaking it's a pairing, I've ruined it, which would be Noah and Mio from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and well, this one's obvious, isn't it? Xenoblade Chronicles 3 already is a 2-year-old game, and Smash Bros. Is not coming up until, at the very least, next year, so Noah and Mio will definitely be in. I mean, we almost got Rex and Pyra already into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and we didn't because of, well, technical difficulties, in a way, you know? Not only did they not have enough time, but also getting the characters to work the way they wanted to, because it was going to be Rex with Pyra, and they were going to work with the Ice Climbers, which obviously was, I think, thankfully we didn't get that, because I think it would have been a worse idea than what we ended up getting. Although I'm still not the biggest fan of the way we got it, although technically speaking we kind of follow in the footsteps of Torna, the Golden Country, the way the characters play, but that's beside the point. Noah and Mio just fit perfectly for this. You know, Xenoblade Chronicles again 2 almost had the characters in, didn't have the time. Shulk was immediately added upon the first Smash game post Xenoblade Chronicles that he was allowed to, so you have that immediately. And I did say in the beginning this group would technically consist of 6 characters, because I think you could also have N and M as Echo Fighters. Although if I was going to say the group of 10 characters and there'll be 10 new characters, I would not include N and M because, you know, I do think they'll be most likely Echoes. It fits. They already are the same models, basically. They already would utilize a lot of the same animations. Although I don't know exactly how they would make N work, because N in-game is a lot more different than M is, because, you know, M you could easily just be like, oh yeah, she just has Mio's moveset, and, you know, N is much more like, if you were gonna make the composition of like, oh, they're the same characters, N would much more resemble Noah if he had Lucky 7 drawn, but that's beside the point. I do think Noah and Mio are 100% in, with N and M being likely characters. Then another character I think will be very, very close to be in, or 100%, not 100% in, probably the weakest one of this group, which would be a character from the Dusk Bloods. I mean, come on, Nintendo is funding a From Software game. They're making it exclusive. They're going to get a character. Even if it's not the Dusk Bloods, I wouldn't be surprised if it is a From Software character. That's why I think it's the weakest, because it could easily be replaced with a From Software character. Now, whom? I don't know. But and I think it's one of the most obvious ones, with the big emphasis on yeah, Dusk Bloods coming to Switch 2 and it's exclusive. So yeah, no, feels right. And the final character of this group of characters I'm putting money down. This one only has a little bit of a technicality that suffers. I have a character written, but I'm just going to say first the franchise and then I'm going to go into it, which is a Pokemon. I think 100% a Pokemon's going to be in. Come on. It's the easiest of the picks. Although Noah and Mew are pretty easy, a Pokemon is even easier. Pokemon has always been represented every Smash game that has ever been. You know, Pikachu and Jigglypuff are a part of the original 12. Pichu and Mewtwo appeared in Melee. Pokemon trainers and Lucario showed up in Brawl. Technically speaking, when Smash 4 is when we had less Pokemon being added, because we only had one in Greninja being the only brand new Pokemon, and then we also only had one with Ultimate with Incineroar, although technically speaking with the removal of the Pokemon trainer only Charizard being included, and then the reintroduction of the Pokemon trainers, other Pokemon in Ultimate, technically speaking, we could say they added more than one, but you know, that's a technicality on the sense. So, who would be the Pokemon that would be joining this Smash game? I say there's a chance it isn't what I'm gonna say, but I'm pretty confident in what I'm gonna say. So, if we look at the past and patterns, for Smash, what Pokemon? What Pokemon get in? Well, the original 12 obviously had Pokemon from Generation 1. Then you look at Melee, what Pokemon came in? Well, we had the Mewtwo, which was going to be in the original game. It wasn't, because they didn't have enough time to do so. So they added him in Melee, and then we have Pichu, which was an easy clone. Then we have the time skip to Brawl, and by Brawl's time, we already had 2 Pokemon generations, which was Pokemon Generations 3 and 4, so Lucario got the nod plus Pokemon Trainer. And between Brawl and Smash Ultimate, we had Generations that's not even my pronounced number, Generations 5 and Generation 6, with Generation 6 getting the nod and the inclusion of Greninja. Between Brawl, not Ultimate, 4 and Ultimate, that's the way it should be said, we only had also one Pokemon generation, which was Generation 7, with Incineroar getting the nod. Now, between Ultimate and this brand new game, it all depends when the game comes out, it could be that we only had Generations 8 and 9, or we already have Generation 10. I do think it's only going to be 8 and 9, although next year, 2026 is the 10th anniversary of Pokemon. I don't think we're going to be seeing a Pokemon Generation 10, but I might be wrong. We'll see. I think it will be too early. Might be too early. We'll see. We'll see. At Game Freak, they do sometimes make more games. The higher-ups decide to make more games that they can chew. So if we follow the way it has been, every time there's 2 Pokemon generations that get introduced, the later generation is the one, not the later as in the most recent one by the time of release. So the later as in like 3 or 4, 4 is the later, but it's the most recent, so it's the one that gets the nod. I think it's going to be happening here. Between 3 and 4, 4 got the nod. Between 5 and 6, 6 got the nod. So I think if things keep going, it's between 8 and 9, 9 gets the nod. Now, which Pokemon from Generation 9 will be getting? Well, there's a lot of choices to pick. You could easily go with one of the starters. You can go for one of the box legendaries with Koraidon. I feel like would be a stronger pick, not because I just love my legendary son, but I'm just gonna point it out. I think Koraidon would be cooler, and you know, the same. You also have the Swirl-Edge and Amarouche as possibilities, and there's a few more Pokemon from this generation. Are they? Golden Goat, the 1000th Pokemon, could be pretty cool representation for Smash. But if I'm gonna be honest, I think we already know who's gonna be. It's gonna be a starter, and I have a good feeling there was gonna be Meowscarada, as I feel like there's Meowscarada is the one there, or Sprigatito in the evolutionary line is the ones they're putting forth as the mascot of this generation. If it does, I think it'll be pretty cool. It'll complete the Triforce of the starters of fire, water, and grass. And also, didn't realize it until when I started to plan this video, that if that is the case, if Meowscarada becomes the playable fighter, then Dark type will be the typing with the most amount of playable representation from Pokemon in Smash. As, you know, the other ones are all like tied between 1 and 2, and then Dark will become the most playable type, which I think it's a pretty interesting, fun little statistic if Meowscarada gets in. If it isn't, well, we then have to wait and see who it is. Because for example, if it's Quaquaval, it would be water. They'll become the most. Yes, water will become the most represented type. I had to think there for a second if water was or not, but yeah, water would get 3, like dark would get 3. But yeah, that'll be fun at the very least, I would say. So now let's move on to the characters I think are likely to be in, but it's a thing of like I could easily see them in, and I could easily see them out. Are characters I would put money on, not good money on, you know. Noah and Mio and Meowscarada, I would put good money on. Some of these, not really. So let us begin with a character I think could even be revealed with the game, be the first character revealed with the game. And I think in that case, as the next Direct would be a great place for it. Because it would be the first trailer, and I think it would work better, especially if they want to troll everyone, if it came in the midpoint of a Direct, especially if it's the first announcement, the first trailer for Smash. If it's already the game's out, or the game is announced, and they're like, oh, it's coming, and they already done the trailer, I would think that this would be like in the midway point of a Direct. Because it's one of the few characters I could easily see being revealed and we not, or it could easily be revealed and people not immediately clock it, it's Smash Bros, especially if it's in the middle. But if it's in the beginning of a Direct or at the end of a Direct, people will immediately clock it that it's for Smash Brothers, and that is Mr. Sans. Yes, I think Sans, for Smash 4 had this idea of like he's not in. If you look at Smash traditionally, most of the characters that get in are the mascots of a franchise, but only if the franchise is an ensemble cast. Or the most popular, no, not the most popular, because more often not the most popular is the mascot. That's why they're the mascot. But it's the mascot of the franchise, the front center character of the franchise, or the protagonist. And I think Min Min kind of broke that, because even though Min Min was the most popular character for ARMS, she wasn't the main mascot. Springman is, alongside Ribbon Girl. I would wager, and I'm willing to bet, that those two will still be front and center in the next ARMS game. And yes, I know people are going to say, there's not going to be another ARMS game. ARMS sold better than most Metroid games, better than all but one F-Zero, and better than all but one, maybe two Xenoblade Chronicles games, 2 or 3 Fire Emblems. Yeah, it's gonna get another game. Plus, let me remind you all, this is something people don't like to hear, but the only reason people don't like to hear, but I know, and it's not that they like to hear, it's that it's not said a lot, and it's a truth that should be said more often. The only reason F-Zero is not getting new games, it's because it doesn't have somebody within Nintendo fighting for it. That's the simple reason. That's why Star Fox has kept getting games. It's the same reason why Pikmin, despite the long, sorry, I had my throat there, died. Despite long periods of time without Pikmin games, Pikmin still gets games being made, especially when you consider how long they take to make these games, and the Pikmin games specifically, how long the game development's for, sometimes even restarting them, same thing with Metroid. It's because they have champions within the company. You know, same thing with Xenoblade. Xenoblade was able to keep going as a franchise because of the help Monolith did to other Nintendo studios, and then Xenoblade finally blew up with the Switch, and now the games justify by themselves their existence. But that's beside the point. The next ARMS will happen because Yabuki is a big champion for it, and he's a beloved guy within Nintendo's high-level developer, so ARMS will get another game. Sorry, don't want to get too much on this rant. Anyway, like I was saying, Min again will probably take more of a role in the marketing for the next ARMS game. Will she be the main front and center character? I don't know. I don't think she will. I think she'll be in the cover, definitely, but not front and center. I think they might do something where more ARMS characters are in there and she's included and has a big feature. Maybe even the character that takes the most amount of space. But I would still say that Springman and Ribbon Girl are going to be the more because they're the more basic characters, the more to try to attract more people. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe when Legs comes out, we'll see. Anyway, I think I think that Sans takes the role like Min of it's not the protagonist. Undertale has a protagonist, and yes, Undertale is now a franchise with 2 games, and again, he's not the protagonist, he's not the playable character, but he is the more popular and well-known character. And now that he has a Mii costume, and now with Min breaking that pattern, and yes, patterns do exist in Smash. I know people like to say, no, they're not, and you don't know what you're talking about. Most Smash games have patterns. You can easily trace them back. You can easily see the train and thought that went into the games, and you can see where they draw lines and where they don't draw lines and how things are done. And I think that Sans very likely could be in Smash. I think it will be a meme becoming true. I think it'll be lovely to see. I've played Undertale. If you don't know, all the streams are on the channel, or they'll be linked below the playlist for it. And it took me 7 hours to beat him. I enjoyed him in the Shadow Realm run, I should say. I enjoyed him. I think he's a good character. I believe he's also in Deltarune. I haven't played Deltarune. I will be eventually. And yeah, I think Sans makes perfect sense. Going along with Sans, let's continue on with an adjacent character to this. The only character, and I'll talk about another character that I thought Smash Ultimate was the final chance for them to get in. They didn't get in, and now I feel like they have a chance, unlike some other characters. And if I get the thumbnail to look the way I want to, you already know who the other character might be because it's in the thumbnail. Next character I thought was not going to be in, but probably will be in, that now has a chance, is Geno. 3 years ago. Wait, actually, before I say something incredibly stupid, let me just pause for a second. Okay, I can say it. 3 years ago. Actually, no, I can't, because it's already May. 3 years and 2 months ago, or 3, I don't remember when the Nintendo Direct was where they announced this. I believe it was around March. Could be wrong. Anyway, or maybe it was January. I don't remember. Anyway, looking 3.5 years ago, maybe 4. Let's just go with 4 because that feels better. 4 years ago, if you had asked me, hey, what do you think is going to be in Smash? Who do you think could be in Smash? Who's likely going to be in Smash? You know, most of my things wouldn't change right now looking at it. Sans, I think, would have been still there as a likely. No one Mio and Meowscarada almost. No, actually, 4 years ago, I wouldn't say Meowscarada or No One Mio. Sorry, I'm dumb. Let's keep going. 4 years ago, if you asked me, will Geno be in Smash? I would have told you simply no. Why? I don't know, I'm going with this word, but I'm going to keep going with it. Why? Because he wasn't in Ultimate. The Ultimate Smash Bros. Game that was done with fan voting, the one that allowed Sora to be in, although 4 years ago, I don't think Sora was in Smash already, but that doesn't matter for this conversation. Let's keep going on. Spice me up, I don't know. Anyway, Geno, I would have said, no way, Goze, there's no way this guy gets into Super Smash Bros. No. Ultimate was his ultimate chance, and he ultimately didn't get it. You know, like some other people. But 2023 happened. What happened in 2023? Do you know? Actually, why am I saying 4 years ago? 3 years ago was 2022. I'm stupid. Anyway, 2023 happened, and Mario RPG was released. Not only announced, and released. It did good sales, and brought Geno back. And now that he's back in relevance, and it seems like Nintendo and Square still have a good connection, I don't know. Seems like maybe it's likely. That's why it's in the likely. I didn't put it in the most likely or character I'll put good money on, but I'll put money on it. I think he has a good chance. And speaking of characters from Nintendo that now have a good chance, one that is more recent, and perchance one that, oh actually no, sorry, I was going to say perchance a more recent character, is the most recent character in the list of likelies, will be Ravenbeak, the final boss of Metroid Dread, the main villain of Metroid Dread, that holds the whole thing together, and even the guy that technically speaking has importance, not technically speaking, has major implications for the lore of Metroid. And now that Samus is no longer alone in Smash, I'll be honest, I always felt that Metroid had good representation in Smash, be it with just Samus or now with multiple characters. There was this thing, well, Samus is Metroid is a very what's the word I'm looking for? I know what the word I'm looking for is. I'm just trying to remember how to say it or what the word exactly is. Isolated, I think. It's not exactly the word I'm looking for, but kind of fits. Isolated. It's a game where you're always isolated, you're alone in an alien planet, and Samus being the only character from that franchise represented in Smash fits. But now we also have two other characters, and I think Ravenbeak kinda fits the mold to be also a part of Metroid. He also would have a great moveset, especially if they just honestly just take all the moveset from that Samus could have if they were to make her based on Dread and give it to Ravenbeak, because he also does a lot of those same techniques. I think it'll be very effing cool. And speaking of, this was gonna be for later on, but I guess we can attach it now. I also think that there'll be something that I think likely could happen is the de-echoification of Dark Samus, because I think it should just be done, honestly. I think if Dark Samus is not gonna be her own character, it's one of the few characters I legitimately say, yeah, it's a waste to be in here. It's a waste of the resources. Even if the resources wouldn't amount to anything else, I think they're still wasted. It could be done to improve something else. Why? While it's very cool that Dark Samus is here, and it's very cool that Dark Samus has her own unique animations, it's kind of, to me, bad that Dark Samus, as an assist trophy, is more unique than Dark Samus, the playable fighter. And that, to me, is what makes Dark Samus a waste, in a way. And I wish I think it is the proper terminology here. It wasn't just an echo. It's very much like Ganondorf. I just want Ganondorf to be completely de-echoed from Captain Falcon and given his own goddamn moveset. And I'll say it right now, maybe it's controversial, I think the franchise with the worst representation in Smash is the Legend of Zelda series. Fine. And also, going back with Echoes, continuing on, just gonna say it, I also think another character will be de-echoified, and it's Daisy. And I don't think Daisy will be de-echoified because I think they will give her an incredibly new moveset. No, I think she'll be de-echoified because they're gonna take they're gonna give her fully the moveset she has comparatively to Peach, and Peach will be the one to get a complete new moveset because of Princess Peach Showtime. It just fits, and I would love to see it happen. Both of the characters being separated, at the very least slightly more differentiated. There's very little difference between Samus and Daisy, and I think that Peach getting a new moveset based on Super Princess Peach would be really neat, and also to showcase like the Switch era, because a lot of Switch era things should be a part of this, and like how Nintendo has evolved, let's put it that way, or how many franchises have grown or had opportunities to be here. And I think Princess Peach getting her own game would be really cool to also get her own now unique moveset, although she still had the unique moveset until Daisy showed up, but more unique in the terms of like actually taking base on the inspiration of the game. And keeping on with echoes, I guess this can technically speaking, this character could be an echo that I also think will be in the game, or maybe not, and will be Shadow the Hedgehog, but not alone. I have Shadow, which could be an echo fighter or its own unique fighter, and Dr. Eggman being a part of Smash Brothers. Sephiroth was the first, not just the first villain from a third party coming in, it also was the first Final Fantasy became the first franchise with 2 reps in Smash. They were unique. When you look at the entire Smash roster, the first franchise to get more than 1 rep was in fact Castlevania getting the Echo Fighter of Richter coming in as an Echo Fighter of Simon, and then not Final Fantasy, Street Fighter also getting another Echo Fighter with Ken. So why not? Another, people were questioning why Shadow wasn't. I also could theoretically, I think that maybe Echoes could have been done late term, something like that, or decided late term, or not. Sakurai thinking, I don't want to do Shadow. If Shadow is just going to be an Echo, that would be it. So I'm just speculating here. That's why I'm including Shadow here, although I also think that Shadow could very much go into the not likely pile or not in with other characters. He's much leaning more on the not in than on could possibly be in, but that's just thing. And Eggman, the iconic villain of most, if not all, Sonic games would fit perfectly. If Sephiroth can get in, so can Eggman, and keeping on with villains, but also franchises getting second opportunities or a second playable fighter. This franchise already has a second playable fighter in an Echo form, but also could also include a new fighter, which would be Street Fighter with M. Bison or Chun-Li coming in. I think both of them are equally as likely. I personally think Chun-Li would be Chun-Li, and also I was saying Chun-Li has more of a shot. As someone who's not really into Street Fighter, I don't even know if M. Bison is still showing up in the games. I know he's a very popular character. I think he's like basically the villain of the first few games. He was the villain in the movie, but I don't know if he's still around. I have no idea. I know Akuma is. Maybe Akuma could be the fighter. I don't know. But then people could still complain like, oh, they still is based on the same model of Ryu or a similar model to Ryu and just change a few things. I guess they could complain about that, but I don't know. I put these up here. Also, another one, I didn't write it down, but as I was saying, I reminded myself, another one that I think has a very likely chance of being in, again, thanks to Sephi getting in, would be Alucard, an assist trophy that was already revealed. There's already in Ultimate, I should say, I don't know, so I said revealed, already in Smash Ultimate. People want to see. He's a very popular Castlevania character, and I think he would fit right in with the game. Just makes sense. I think it makes sense to be in. Continue on this trend of third parties, and then we'll end on another first party character in the likely one. I'm gonna put one here that I don't think will happen, but could happen again, and it's V from Cyberpunk. At first I thought of The Witcher, but The Witcher, Gerald would be from a book, and it's not a video game character, although it's much more recognizable nowadays outside for most people from the video games. I don't know if Cyberpunk was a book or not. So if it was, completely forget this entry. But with the effort and even the way Nintendo is treating Cyberpunk, I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But hey, maybe not. Then I have a trio of characters here from third parties. That will be the final one for third parties, and we'll go back to first. And it is a trio of Microsoft characters. And another ones I feel like we've talked about them ad nauseum during the Switch Ultimate era. So, and especially for DLC. So I'm just gonna sweep by them very quickly because I think that all of them are likely, but it's one of the things of you tell me one Microsoft character is getting in, and I'm saying it's split between these three, and you throw a dart, you probably will be right. And most people a lot of people will be like, I was right because I called this one. It's like, yeah, everybody could call any of these. It's literally one of these three, I would assume, and it will be Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and Doomslayer. Maybe Dragonborn could be also included, but I feel like these three in particular would be the ones that would be in the conversation. Specifically Crash and Doomslayer, I would probably, or Doom Guy, or whatever it is nowadays, I would put them on a higher tier, closer to or putting better money on than I would put for Spyro. But you never know, Sakurai does love to throw those curveballs. And the final character I want to say that is a part of this likely group of characters is one that I feel like is another one that joins the ranks of Ravenbeak. One that I'm like, it's almost certainly going to be in, but I could also see a world where they just go nah. And it's the Ring Fit Trainer. Listen, Ring Fit did tremendous in sales, became a huge franchise, a huge game in the Switch era. And it just fits, right? We already have the Wii Fit Trainer, So why not have the Ring Fit Trainer? They would have completely different concepts, because the Ring Fit Trainer could immediately bring the ring in, and I think it would be very fun to have them as well play similar but differently enough from the Wii Fit Trainer. I think they will fit and be very, very fun. Also, I would love to see what they will do with some of the villains of that game, especially as it's trophies and stuff like that. So yeah, those, I think that covers of the likely ones, unless something else happened and my brain is going, hey, what about this one? In the next, as I record the rest of this video. And now we reach the final group of characters, the characters that I feel like won't be in, and I went just for characters that, the Smash community has had a conversation about them for a long time, quite a long time, pre-Ultimate, post-Ultimate, during the DLC and stuff like that. Well, two of them didn't, actually. Their hopes got dashed on the rocks in November, I want to say, of 2018, when we got the final Smash Ultimate Direct before the release of the game. I believe it was November. It could have been October. I think it was November. And this is, technically speaking, the smallest group, technically speaking, even how I talked about the most likely ones. Although, technically speaking, it's bigger than the most likely, because unless Noah and Mio are separate characters on the roster and we get N and M, this group consists of 4 slots, let's put it that way, versus the most likely, which is technically speaking just 3. But anyway, it's 4 characters, 2 third parties, 2 first parties, and technically speaking, not even 2 third parties, 2 indie characters. And we'll begin with those. Let's begin with that. We'll begin with the first one of those, and the one that is the oldest, which is Shantae. During the Smash 4 days, and even pre-Ultimate launch, there was a conversation about Shantae being the character being introduced in Smash, the character to represent the indies and the support of the indies to Nintendo systems, and specifically the Wii U and the Switch. Shantae back then was much more associated with Nintendo way forward. Great developers, a lot of, also associated with Nintendo, and a studio that, I don't know, nowadays I'm actually thinking about it, could put Shantae more in line to be a character because of their efforts and working with Nintendo recently. I mean, they made the Advance Wars remake. They also made that, what was it? Was it Bakugan game? The one that had the announcement like, hey, by the way, we're gonna have an announcement with WayForward soon, and people got a little bit too excited, and it was Bakugan for Switch. Was a weird way to market that game. I don't remember what year it was. I don't want to say it was during the pandemic. I think it was post-pandemic. Was it? I don't remember. I do remember the whole thing about it, but it's one of those things of like, we look back on it now, it's like, well, no. Shantae has lost a little bit of the limelight. WayForward has also lost a lot of the limelight. The conversation has quieted down, has disappeared a little bit, and I also feel like now there's a lot more on the indie side of things, that characters that could be, and one that I forgot to even include in the likely characters would have been Hollow Knight. Like that, he has more of a chance than of the indies alongside Sans of being a character in Smash. Another thing I forgot to say about Sans was the relationship between Toby Fox and Nintendo nowadays is stronger, I would say, than the relationship, for example, for WayForward was. Even though he hasn't made a single Nintendo exclusive, I would say he has, in a way, a stronger relationship with Nintendo than WayForward. Although WayForward, I wouldn't be surprised, we'll get a lot of Nintendo contracts over the next few years of making brand new, not brand new games, but like remakes of older Nintendo franchises that might require it. Like Toby, I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to, and he talked to Nintendo, I wouldn't be surprised if he brought back Earthbound and made Mother 4, maybe in connection with the Shigesato Itoi, just to be like a passing of the torch. I don't know why he would want to, outside of being a huge fan of the franchise, but it's something he could do, absolutely do, if he wanted to. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it will happen, by the way. I'm just saying, if Mother 4 gets announced relatively soon, and it's made by Toby Fox, I'm just saying I called it as something he could happen. And be one of the few that would predict that. And the other indie character I feel like has had a lot more of a chance prior, but now I feel like the conversation around it has died down, not just in terms of hype, but like even in terms of the games. Although they, technically speaking, only had one game that had a lot more, a lot of content being added over time. But as a franchise, it hasn't really. I don't feel like it has grown. I know it has spin-offs, but it feels like it's a different scenario than it was last time around, where it would have been a character that would have been like, oh yeah, this could definitely be in Smash. And technically speaking, it was. Not technically, it was in Smash. It was an assist trophy, which is better than Shantae, which was another character. Also, yeah, now I realize I just said it. Like, no, 3/4 of this roster died a death in that November Direct, because that character is Shovel Knight. Over the last few years, not few years, since forever, I don't remember. Shovel Knight hasn't had a sequel. It had spin-offs, and I mean, you could call them sequels if you want, but I would not. Maybe they can consider them sequels, but for people outside that are not just like religiously looking for just spin-offs, they wouldn't consider them brand new games. Like, you know, if it's like saying that Pokemon Snap was a sequel to Pokemon Red and Blue, and it's like, well, not really. You could call it, but it isn't. It is a part of the franchise, definitely, and maybe they call it, I don't know. I just, looking now, it feels like a lot of the conversation and hype around Shovel Knight has died down. Like, I don't, like, look at the way people to this, I mean, obviously it was because of the announcement and knowing about it, but look at the difference between Hollow Knight and Shovel Knight, right? Or Silksong, I should say. Like, the talking, the conversation about it, like, the memes surrounding it, Hollow Knight, and the release of Silksong. And then you look at Shovel Knight, where the conversation about the Shovel Knight 2 feels non-existent. You know, directs come and go, indie worlds come and go, and nobody brings up Shovel Knight. I feel like it feels weird to talk about it, you know? So, I don't know, it feels like the character very much is now gone into obscurity, whereas before Ultimate, it was very much in the conversation. Maybe things will change now that the Switch 2 is coming up, and the conversation surrounding Smash is going to explode once again, because, you know, we are, I would argue we're a year and a half basically from the launch of Smash Ultimate 2, or the next Smash, I don't know why I say Ultimate 2, the next Smash Brothers. You know, I feel like it's a game that will come out next year, and it'll be the big holiday title for next year. I do feel like it is a game that will be in a package deal with Air Riders, of like, Sakurai, yeah, you can, Nintendo and Sakurai came to a deal of like, yeah, you can make, Sakurai's like, I will make the next Smash Brothers as long as I get to make Air Riders. And I feel like Air Riders could be a game that will have not that big of a development team, and it's something that he could have, or he could be overseeing at the same time as overseeing Smash, and hopefully create someone who, or not create, that's not the wrong term, but hopefully train someone to take over the reins for Smash Brothers, and then keep on making Smash, so that he doesn't get to be perpetually in the prison of making Smash, and he can make other things, and then Smash can keep going without him. I feel like it's the best possible future for it, personally, honestly, I'm just saying. But yeah, and then we move on to the two Nintendo characters, and these ones are weird in a way. One's in the title, and one's in the thumbnail, probably, if I get though how I wanted it. But the other one is a franchise that's a bit weird, because as much as people, the hype around this character has always been people wanting it, and I think it's fair, because people grew up with the franchise and liked it. The franchise is now on the Switch, and will be on Switch 2 through the Nintendo Online with its GBA games. The GBA games I do know, or is it just one? I do know it had a DS game and a 3DS game, I believe, but I don't think it had two. I think it was only one. And that's also one of the weirdest franchises to talk about regarding Smash, or a character coming to Smash, or one of the dead Nintendo franchises, because it's not dead in the conventional Nintendo sense. You know, like I said previously, as long as somebody within the company wants to make it, they will make it. You know, that's why F-Zero is dead. As much as Miyamoto wants to say it's about X, Y, and Z, the reality is they don't have anyone. And like the Miyamoto way of like, oh, I'm not doing F-Zero, or we're not doing F-Zero because we don't know how to make it, and make it with a gimmick. It's like, no, that's how Miyamoto would do. That's why he doesn't do it. But if there was somebody within Nintendo that was like, I want to make F-Zero and I really want to make it, and they were like somebody of importance, like again, Miyamoto is a fun example. If he wanted to and he got an idea, F-Zero will be made. Look at Air Riders. Air Riders wasn't made for 20 years until Sakurai went, I want to do it, and they went, fine. It's Sakurai. Of course you're going to allow him to do it. While this one is different, because this one has nothing to do with Nintendo. Nintendo's just like, yeah, if this studio in particular wants to do it, which is the studio that made this game and created this game, wants to do it, we'll just allow them to do it. There's nothing stopping the studio from doing it outside of the studio not wanting to do it, and that it's Golden Sun, and I feel Isaac will be a character that it's out. I feel like maybe he has a smaller chance. He might be the only character here. I'll put it on the upper echelons of not in to be like closer to not likely, but I feel like the time has passed. Unless Camelot decides to goes like, you know what, we've made a lot of Mario sports games. The sales on them have kind of, I don't know, they haven't stagnated, and that's not the correct term to utilize. But maybe they could go like, okay, maybe we can do something different for a change. And they decided to go for Golden Sun, especially with the success of Xenoblade, the 3D, not the 3D, the Mario RPGs, the success RPGs in general I've had on Switch. Maybe. So yeah, I feel like that unless he gets a new game relatively soon, I think Isaac will stay as an assist trophy. And speaking of assist trophies, which technically speaking 3/4 of this section was, the final character, the one that I don't see making it in, no way, Goze, because I feel like ultimately was their final chance, and that is Waluigi. I'm sorry, I like Waluigi, but come on, it's dead, Jim. It's absolutely dead. Like, think about it. Waluigi over the last, 6 years, 7 years, since Ultimate, what has Waluigi done? Outside of appearing in Mario spin-offs and Mario Kart, which is the biggest game Nintendo has, but what has he done? Like, it's not even like Gino who went from, oh yeah, it's not happening, to holy shit, it actually has a chance now. Like, they remade Mario RPG. He stands a chance now. He's now back in the zeitgeist. And now a lot more people are going to be like supporting him and wanting him in because of the game. And now that he's back in the limelight, maybe even Square Enix will be down to do it. Waluigi, there was never any reason for him not to be in Smash. And there still isn't a reason outside of like, oh, some fans wanted. I feel like we'll see with the fan support. But to me, it feels very much like especially after what happened with some Waluigi fans and the way they treated Sakurai post-launch, that November Direct, or not November, was he announced as he was announced as an assist trophy right off the rip, so it wasn't even, it was early on, it was at E3, and the way they talked to Sakurai or about Sakurai, I feel like it turned a lot of people off of the idea of Waluigi, just on the sense of, these people don't fucking deserve it. And I feel like a lot of the conversation of Waluigi will be very much on the case of, would I like Waluigi? Sure, but he's not happening. I feel like that's going to be the major talking of anyone that will talk about Waluigi going forward is, I would like him, but he's not going to go in, so I'm going to focus on everybody, on some other characters that I want in, and talking about them, supporting them, and creating a big hoopla, let's put it that way, about the character. And I feel like after Ultimate, that's how a lot of people will feel. Because, like, come on. The ultimate Smash Brothers that went out of their way to get everyone. King K. Rool was in after being dead and buried for over a decade. Ridley was in, surprisingly, a shit ton of people. God damn it, they made Daisy and Chrom Echo Fighters. And then through the DLC, you can add in Sora. It feels, and even Banjo and Kazooie, Dragon Quest being in, it's like very much Ultimate really was just like fine-tuning the missing parts and the missing links. Obviously there's characters they're still missing from the grand scheme of things, not having Monster Hunter, not having Ninja Gaiden in, not having Devil May Cry in, a character, big things connected to Nintendo or gaming as a whole not being in. And Waluigi hasn't appeared in any major games since Ultimate outside of the Mario spin-offs. He isn't, like, to me, the thing that always put Waluigi down as a character, as like I don't think he would ever be in Smash, is like, my guy Waluigi can't even make it into the WarioWare games. He's not a part of it. He's linked to the hip. His creation is linked to the hip to Wario, and he can't even get that. Like, he couldn't even be a guy that would be helping in the plans of Luigi's Mansion to get Luigi in, because he's supposedly to be the main villain, to be Luigi's counterpart to Wario being Mario's counterpart. And Wario was a villain in one of the Mario games. And Waluigi can't even not be a part, even a sidekick of King Boo in Luigi's Mansion 3 or stuff like that. Hey, maybe he'll show up in Luigi's Mansion 4. Whatever. It's probably not. But like, he can't get even cameo appearances in those. He can't. The only things that shows up in other games is like a costume. And that's basically it for Waluigi in those other games. And, you know, that's a shame, but I feel like, yeah, that's Waluigi's grand scheme into the Nintendo world. He's just that. And also, I'll be honest, I feel like being an assist trophy in a way fits him better, as he's supposed to be the shadow of Luigi, supposed to be this loser in a way. It's like how I felt like Samus being the only character from Metroid, because of the isolated nature of the Metroid games would fit Samus being the only representative character for the franchise. Waluigi in a way feels also well represented as an assist trophy and not as a playable fighter. I'm not saying he shouldn't be a playable fighter, I don't mind him being a playable fighter. I just feel it kind of feels like he still fits in that role. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, I'm sorry, but it's how I feel. I feel like Waluigi is the, if you gave me 100 dollar dues, euros, or whatever you said, I have to spend the money. I have to spend money on each character of the ones I talked about, and even like the echoes and stuff like that. And I had to split the money. But every character I talked about today, I would have to give at least some money. To put money on as a bet, Waluigi would be the one I'll be like, I'll give it a cent. And it feels like maybe I would even say like betting odds, it probably would be among Shovel Knight and Shantae and Isaac, obviously. Have like the bigger odds in terms of like return on investment, not bigger odds that means like they're in. Like I would say Noah and Neo would be you bet $10, you would get back like the 10 back effectively, and maybe like you make $1 or $2 extra dollars. Waluigi, if you bet 10, you get 100. You know, that's how I feel. So that will be all of it for this video that hopefully will turn out better than I'm thinking it is going to. But anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed. Tell me in the comments section, what do you think? Tell me your 3 tiers of your most likely, your likely, and most definitely not in. What are the characters you would put there, like in this hypothetical scenario for the next Smash Brothers? And tell me maybe even reasons why. And if you enjoy, please hit that subscribe button. And hey, I try to stream every day. I try to. I'm not, sometimes stuff happens and I'm not able to. And yeah, hopefully I'll be streaming on the 5th as the Switch 2 comes up with playing Switch 2. I don't know exactly how early I'll be able to start to stream it, because I don't know when the console arrives, and then doing the patch and all that stuff. But anyway, hope everybody enjoyed. Once again, tell me in the comment section what do you think of any of these characters, and what are your thoughts on who's getting in or out. So anyway, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.